They say America is the world's superpower. But what if that power hinges on 10 critical nations not turning their backs? Why are these countries so essential to US stability, and what could happen if they simply said, "We're out"? One nation supplies your smartphone components. Another could send the dollar crashing in a heartbeat. Some host American troops. Others fuel the US energy appetite. From managing global debt to holding nuclear leverage, these nations carry serious weight. Think the US is untouchable? Think again? These relationships aren't just friendly partnerships, they're lifelines. If any one of them fails, the ripple effects could be devastating. Let's dive into the 10 countries America simply cannot afford to lose. Number 10. China. You probably don't stop to consider where your phone, your laptop, or your kids' toys actually come from. But imagine if those products suddenly stopped arriving. You'd be stunned to realize just how intertwined your everyday life is with China. This one nation alone accounts for more than 28% of the world's manufacturing output, more than the United States, Japan, and Germany combined. From iPhones to solar panels, China silently powers the American lifestyle. But that's just scratching the surface. China also owns over $800 billion in US debt. That's more than a financial figure, it's leverage. If China decides to weaponize trade or pull back on exports, shelves in American stores would empty, and entire industries could grind to a halt. But here's the real concern. It's not just about losing goods, it's about losing control. The US depends on China far more than most people realize. And if that tie is ever severed, the shockwave will hit every household in America. Number 9. Russia. Think gas prices are high now? Imagine waking up to find they've tripled, not because of local events, but because Russia made a move. That's right, Russia, the second largest exporter of oil in the world, accounting for nearly 10% of global crude production. But their influence goes far beyond oil. We're talking about gas, wheat, rare metals, and serious military power. In times of crisis, a single decision from Moscow can send global markets into panic mode. And remember, this is the country that holds the largest nuclear arsenal on Earth. But their strength isn't limited to weapons. It includes economic clout, regional dominance, and the power to flip alliances on their head. You'd be amazed how many high-level global deals hang in the balance of Russia's decisions. What happens if Russia turns fully eastward? Or if it stops working with the US on space tech or cyber defense? America could lose crucial strategic advantages in an instant. Before we continue, make sure to hit that subscribe button. That's how we keep delivering eye-opening insights that could impact your life, and even your wallet. Number 8. Saudi Arabia. How can a desert nation shake Wall Street to its core? Why does a royal decree thousands of miles away raise your gas prices? You're about to find out. What if the world's gas pumps suddenly ran dry because of a decision made in a palace far across the globe? You may not see them in the headlines often, but behind your fuel prices is Saudi Arabia. This desert powerhouse isn't just oil and skyscrapers. It's the lifeblood of the global energy market, holding nearly 17% of the world's confirmed oil reserves. Saudi Arabia is the unofficial gatekeeper of global oil supply. And just one production cut from them? That's enough to send global prices soaring. It's happened before, it could happen again. But it's not just oil, it's influence. For decades, the US and Saudi Arabia have had a trade-off: oil in exchange for military protection. But in recent years, that balance has started to shift. Saudi Arabia is cozying up to new powers and even experimenting with oil trades in non-dollar currencies. That may not sound like much, until you realize that global confidence in the US dollar relies heavily on oil being priced in it. Break that link, and suddenly American money won't go as far. And then there's their regional influence. Saudi Arabia isn't just an energy hub, it's a major strategic player in the Middle East. Their decisions shape Islamic diplomacy, military power, and regional alliances. If they distance themselves from the US, you can bet other powers, less friendly ones, will move in. What if they make weapons deals with US rivals or stop sharing intelligence? These aren't wild hypotheticals, they're real talks already happening in high-level meetings. So the next time you gas up your car or open your heating bill, ask yourself, who's really in control? One move from Saudi Arabia, and the US starts sweating. Number 7. India. It may surprise you, but the next indispensable country on this list is also the most populated on Earth. With over 1.44 billion citizens, India is quickly rising as one of the world's most influential nations. Why should America care? Because India isn't just large, it's strategically positioned. Geographically, it sits right in the heart of Asia. Economically, it's one of the fastest-growing major economies on the planet. Militarily, it ranks among the top 5 in defense spending worldwide. But here's the kicker. India also boasts one of the largest tech workforces globally. Nearly 75% of the world's IT outsourcing flows through Indian companies. From Silicon Valley startups to massive Fortune 500s, US businesses depend heavily on Indian expertise, infrastructure, and innovation. What happens if that pipeline dries up? Long call center wait times would be the least of your problems. Your tech infrastructure, cloud services, app updates, cybersecurity could face major delays or shutdowns. And there's more. India helps balance the rise of other global superpowers. Its cooperation with America in areas like defense and technology helps keep Asia stable. But if India decides to pivot away from Washington, or just stay neutral when it matters, that delicate balance could collapse. India also has ambitious plans. They're eyeing leadership in semiconductor production, green energy, and space technology. Lose that partnership, and other countries will gladly jump in to fill the void. But remember, India isn't obligated to follow the US, it's carving its own global path. If America wants to maintain that relationship, it'll need to put in real effort. That's why this partnership isn't optional, it's essential. If India turns its back, the impact won't just hit the tech sector. It'll ripple across every major American industry. Before we get to the next global heavyweight, hit that subscribe button. It helps us keep bringing you truth, analysis, and facts that don't make the nightly news. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Number 6. Germany. What can a country with no oceans, no oil, and no nukes offer that the US can't do without? A whole lot more than you might think. When Germany, a calm and calculated powerhouse in Central Europe, makes a move, it doesn't launch missiles or stir drama. It simply changes direction, and the global economy responds. That's how vital Germany is to the US economy. You might be shocked to learn just how dependent America is on a nation without natural energy resources or nuclear firepower. Germany is Europe's largest economy and the third largest global exporter. From automobiles to high-end machinery and chemicals, German engineering plays a role in countless American products. That's just the beginning. Germany is also the financial engine of the entire European Union, which trades more than $1 trillion annually with the United States. If Berlin shifts focus, the entire EU could veer away from US interests and toward other global alliances. But that's not even the scariest part. Germany is home to Ramstein Air Base, America's strategic military launchpad into Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. If access to that base is lost, US reach in multiple regions vanishes. And here's a twist. Germany is leading Europe's charge in green energy, AI, and digital independence. If the US falls behind or out of sync, it could be left watching from the sidelines as the next industrial revolution takes off. What happens if Germany grows weary of always balancing US priorities with its own regional ambitions? A few policy shifts or economic disagreements could trigger huge consequences. It wouldn't take war, just boardroom decisions and political meetings. And the result? American industries from auto to aerospace would feel it immediately. This isn't just a friendship, it's a lifeline that fuels more than we realize. Number 5. Japan. Now imagine a country smaller than California but so future-focused that losing it could send the US back decades. Japan, This island nation is far more than sushi and cherry blossoms. Japan is a technological juggernaut, a critical U.S. trading partner, and the base for over 100 of the world's biggest companies. From robotics to semiconductors, Japan produces the backbone of modern global innovation. In fact, over 30% of the world's semiconductor materials are made in Japan. But here's where things get serious. Japan is one of America's strongest allies in the Indo-Pacific and hosts over 54,000 U.S. troops. It's a front-line partner in one of the world's most tense regions. If this alliance collapses, the power balance in Asia could unravel quickly. And while Japan doesn't always make global headlines, its quiet strength shouldn't be underestimated. As the world's third-largest economy, every decision Japan makes sends shockwaves from Wall Street to Silicon Valley. What happens if Japan chooses to forge its own path or grows tired of bearing the cost of regional security? The US could suddenly find itself overstretched and vulnerable. Japan is making massive investments in AI, green tech, and next-generation manufacturing. America needs that momentum to stay in the race. Number 4. South Korea. Think your smartphone is impressive? Think your Wi-Fi is fast? Now imagine both disappearing because one small, hyper-innovative country decided to sever ties. That country, South Korea. You might be surprised to learn just how deeply embedded this nation is in the fabric of modern American life. From the screen on your phone to your car's high-tech dashboard, South Korean innovation drives the tech you use daily. In fact, more than 60% of the global memory chip market is controlled by just two South Korean giants, Samsung and SK Hynix. Without them, entire industries would grind to a halt overnight. But this goes beyond devices and data. South Korea is also one of America's closest military partners, strategically located just miles from one of the world's most unpredictable adversaries, North Korea. With nearly 28,000 U.S. troops based there, South Korea isn't just an ally, it's a launchpad. If that alliance crumbles, the U.S. loses a critical stronghold in one of the world's most volatile regions. And there's even more at stake. South Korea has become a cultural powerhouse, transforming global entertainment, fashion, and digital content. Korean influence is redefining how the world connects with media. That kind of soft power? It's now a global currency, more effective than some forms of diplomacy. Number 3. Brazil. What happens if the lungs of the planet decide to stop breathing with us? What if one resource-rich nation simply chooses a new direction? That nation is Brazil. Spanning nearly half of South America, Brazil isn't just vast, it's essential. The Amazon rainforest, largely within Brazilian territory, generates about 20% of the world's oxygen and stores billions of tons of carbon. If environmental cooperation falters, global climate efforts could collapse, and the shockwaves would hit everyone. But Brazil's value doesn't stop with nature. It's one of the world's leading exporters of soybeans, coffee, iron ore, beef, and oil. American businesses, whether in agriculture, energy, or manufacturing, rely heavily on a consistent flow of goods from this economic giant. Cut off that pipeline, and U.S. production could stall while prices surge. And there's a bigger shift underway. Brazil is rising fast on the world stage. As a key member of the BRICS alliance, Brazil is actively helping to reshape global economic systems. If it leans more heavily toward non-Western partners, the global balance of power could change, and the U.S. might not be ready for it. Brazil also holds vast, untapped reserves of rare earth minerals, crucial components in smartphones, electric vehicles, and clean tech. If they choose to restrict access or favor other markets, America's green energy goals could face serious roadblocks. Don't forget, Brazil is also a major diplomatic and military voice in Latin America. Its stance often guides the region. If it pivots away from Washington, competitors won't hesitate to fill the void, right in the US's backyard. And here's the twist: Brazil plays by its own rules. It's proudly independent and doesn't follow anyone's lead. If the US wants to keep this partnership strong, it'll have to stay alert and show respect. Because if Brazil walks away, the ripple effects will be felt everywhere, from supermarket shelves to global negotiations. Before we reveal one of America's oldest and strongest alliances, go ahead and subscribe. What's next might look familiar, but trust us, the truth might surprise you. Number 2. United Kingdom. What happens when your most trusted ally, the one that stood by you through wars and trade disputes, starts playing by a different set of rules? The answer could upend everything. You might picture afternoon tea, historic castles, and polished accents. But beneath that charm lies a nation that could shake America's foundation if it ever decides to pull away. That country? The United Kingdom. You may not realize just how deeply this alliance runs. The UK isn't just a longtime friend, it's America's most vital intelligence-sharing partner through the elite Five Eyes alliance. That means real-time access to threats like terrorism, cyber-attacks, and military movement. Lose that link, and the US would be operating blind in some of the world's most dangerous arenas. And then there's finance. London remains one of the planet's top financial powerhouses, managing trillions in global assets. A sudden pivot in UK economic strategy, toward competitors or away from the dollar, could rattle Wall Street and send markets into chaos. But it doesn't end there. The UK also plays a key role in defense, hosting nuclear assets and working alongside US forces across the globe. From joint submarine operations to shared aircraft carriers, the British military amplifies American power. Diplomatically, the UK's influence stretches far. As a leading voice in both NATO and the United Nations, Britain helps maintain global consensus. If its stance ever shifted away from US interests, it wouldn't just be a symbolic loss. It would fracture critical alliances on everything from warfare to climate strategy. And here's what's changing. The UK is reimagining its global identity after Brexit. It's signing new trade deals, forming fresh partnerships, and defining a path that isn't necessarily tied to Washington. If America doesn't adapt, it could be left in the dust, even by its oldest, most capable friend. Don't be fooled by history. Relationships like this need constant effort. Because if the UK ever steps away, the US won't just lose an ally. It could lose a cornerstone of global power. Number 1. Turkey. This next nation doesn't dominate the headlines, but one wrong step from them could shut down US access to entire regions. That country? Turkey? You might not realize how much this pivotal country affects global military strategy. Positioned between Europe and the Middle East, Turkey controls the Bosporus Strait, one of the most crucial maritime corridors on Earth. If access is denied, NATO's ability to move forces between major regions could collapse. But it goes even deeper. Turkey hosts Incirlik Air Base, a key launching point for US military operations in the Middle East. Without it, America would lose essential rapid response capabilities in some of the most volatile zones on the planet. And here's where things get truly complex. Turkey is a NATO member, yet it often charts its own course. It's purchased missile systems from Russia, made deals with Iran, and regularly breaks from the Western narrative on global issues. If it drifts even further, NATO itself could be compromised, from within. If this gave you a new perspective, help us keep delivering the facts. Hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, and share it with someone who needs to understand the reality of global power. Because this isn't just foreign policy, it's personal. And the more we know, the more prepared we become.